This video is sponsored by Car Vertical. Don't forget to use my promo code HIGHPEAK for 20% off each and every check that you do. Hello and welcome back to more High Peak. Well, over the years, as you can imagine, I've bought and sold thousands of used cars, and some of them have been real stinkers. But today's video isn't about those, it's about the good ones. So I thought today I'd do a video about my 5 favourites. These are cars that I bought that made me fall back in love with driving. Some of the cars on this list were expensive and others weren't. And that's kind of my point. If you're a car person, you'll get exactly what I'm talking about. You see, there's no right or wrong as to what makes a car special. It's all down to personal preference. Let's get into it then. The first one on today's list was something of a bucket list car for me. It was a 2005 Bentley Continental GT. For as long as I can remember, I've really lusted after these cars. They came out back in 2003 and I've always been obsessed with them. I can't even articulate why I like them so much. I can't put my finger on any one thing. It's just a combination, really. It's a mix of everything. The styling, the luxury, the power, the performance, the overall presence. This is a car that you simply cannot ignore. So when I got the opportunity to buy one, I jumped at it.
Alright guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Today is going to be one of those videos where I drive around with a big dumb grin on my face as if I've had a lobotomy, because I'm in one of my all-time favourite cars, the Bentley Continental GT. To be precise, and I can't quite believe I'm going to say this is my Bentley Continental GT. I'd never actually driven a Continental GT before, so I had no idea what to expect. Anyway, I shan't string you along any further. I may as well just come out and say it. It is without doubt the best car I've ever driven. It's luxurious, quiet, fast, powerful, smooth, exquisite, soothing, imperious, imposing. You'll run out of breath before you run out of adjectives. I'll let you in on a little secret. I've always wanted one of these cars. I've spent more hours daydreaming looking at these things on Auto Trader than any other car. It's a car that can pretty much do it all. I'll tell you how I came by these cars because I feel really lucky and fortunate to have been given this opportunity. A few weeks ago I got an email from a viewer down south asking me if I'd be interested in buying both of his fast cars because he just doesn't use them anymore. I won't tell you what the other one is, I'll just let you know that it's something quite special. I'll save that for another video. It was important to him that they went to a good home. He didn't want to just sell them to Philip Schofield. I replied straight away saying thanks for the offer, but I think they're out of my league. Anyway, I did a bit of research, made him what I thought was a fair offer, and he accepted. So I drove down there, picked them both up, and this is one of them. It's a late 2005 Bentley Continental GT, and it's only done 19,000 miles. He bought it from Bentley when it was just a few months old, and he's only done 15,000 miles in 15 years. It's incredible. I'd never get the chance to buy something like this ordinarily. So if you're watching, thanks very much. So this being the Mulliner edition, you get a nice leather interior, nicer wheels. Everything's just that little bit more luxurious. It's a beautiful car, this. The colour combination is stunning. I know it probably looks black on most of the photographs, but it's actually midnight emerald metallic. So it's like a very dark green. It looks black most of the time until the sun hits it, and then you can see all the green flakes glistening and glittering. It's something else. Every time I've considered buying one of these cars before, I mean not seriously considered, but just, you know, had the idea of buying one, they've always been a cheap example, a high mileage scruffy example with more owners than a struggling Premier League football club. And I've always thought, it's typical, isn't it? I've always wanted one of these cars, and now finally they're sub 20 grand. I thought, now they're that sort of money, I don't actually want one. I don't want to go out on a limb and scrimp and save and then end up with a scruffy one that's going to cause me a load of headaches. It would just ruin the dream for me. Also, because Bentley's owned by VW, I thought if I actually buy one of these and spend some time in it, it might start to annoy me when I recognise some VW parts retrimmed. For example, the steering wheel's out of a Touareg, the dash pinnacles are out of a Touareg, the window switches are the same as a Mark IV Golf, the gear selector's the same as an Audi A8, the armrests are the same as an Audi A8. Loads of bits and pieces like that you will recognise, and I thought that might annoy me. I thought it might feel as though I'm driving a VW Phaeton coupe. It doesn't, by the way, not at all. I've touched on this many times before, mainly in Range Rovers and Jaguars. I always say that they make you feel like a millionaire or make you feel like a lottery winner or a successful person. Well, the Bentley doesn't do that. It's way better. It makes you feel like royalty. You drive this and I feel like the Duke of Westminster. The way it picks up speed is remarkable. It's relentless. It feels more like a jet aircraft than a car. I guarantee you will run out of tarmac before you run out of power from this engine. It's a 6-litre 12-cylinder petrol engine with 2 turbochargers strapped on it for good measure. So it produces just over 550 horsepower. Basically, they're 2 3-litre V6 Audi engines welded together, so the formation's in a W, hence the W12. It's mated to a silky smooth 6-speed automatic transmission. not some complicated, jerky twin clutch affair. This is perfect. This is so comfortable and smooth. And all you have to do is just tap the accelerator and you are pinned into your seat. That was just a speed warning, by the way. I thought it was an engine light. False alarm. The Continental GT has been around since 2003 and it was quite an important car for Bentley to get right. And they nailed it. They knocked it out of the park. It really helped them turn around their fortunes after years of living off Rolls-Royce's scraps. After decades of making rebadged Rolls-Royces for the likes of Alan Sugar and music moguls in Beverly Hills, they actually made a car that would appeal to a much wider and younger audience. And it worked. It did just that. Every footballer and rapper and wealthy person from Tokyo to Tyneside had one. This is quite an unusual car in that it was designed for both Queen Elizabeth and Queen Latifah. Also, in fact I might be making this up, but I'm sure I've read this somewhere, the Continental GT is featured in more MTV music videos than any other car. It was popular with everyone. And you can see why. It's a beautiful car. It'll do 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds, which is a remarkable feat when you consider this car's weight. This tips the scales like a Weight Watchers meeting in January, at nearly 2.5 tonnes. But it never feels heavy. I assumed because of its vast weight, I thought when you get this on a country road and start to get a move on, it would feel like trying to push a grand piano around a go-kart track. But it doesn't at all. It never feels like a heavy car, and I think that's down to two reasons. One, the steering's nice and light, so it never feels like you're trying to wrestle with something. And two, it's so powerful. You just have to tickle the accelerator and you're gone. And with its adaptive suspension, it actually feels quite agile. It feels like a big Jaguar. You can adjust the suspension too, but why? Why would you do that? You leave it in its standard setting, it's supremely comfortable. And it does its thing when you try and get a move on around the corner, so leave it be. Thanks to its clever suspension, there's not a huge amount of body roll. It corners quite flat for a car of this size and weight. It's very impressive. So it has supercar performance without any of the supercar drawbacks. The other day I saw a Lamborghini Huracan which looked mint, to be honest. It looked gorgeous. It was so eye-catching. It was red with a load of black bits on it. It's exactly how I would spec one. But it was so low to the ground and the seats looked so difficult to get in and out of. I mean, which is fine if your name's Simone Biles, but I think the rest of us might struggle. Whereas this, you just don't have to worry. You can outgun most supercars while you're sitting here getting a massage from your heated leather seat. This is my kind of car. I love the styling from the front and from the side. From the front, it's so eye-catching and ostentatious. It's borderline vulgar, I must admit, but it's just so classy and regal looking. And from the side, you've got those haunches over the rear wheels. It looks so muscular and aggressive looking. It has the stance of a British bulldog. The rear end isn't my favourite angle of this car. I always thought it looked quite bulbous and quite bland, actually. That was later corrected with facelift versions. Oh, look, an old E-Type. Yeah, that was later corrected with facelift versions. But the back is probably its most subtle angle. The only downside really to its styling is the fact that you do feel like a terrible show-off. But that might all be in my head because people do let you out quite easily from side junctions in this. Whereas in a Range Rover or 911 you will be there all day. When you see one parked up, they do look a little bit chubby in my opinion. But when you see one on the move, they look all purposeful and muscular. Almost like a muscle car, actually. So onto the interior. I think the interior is a masterpiece. It's so timeless and opulent and classy. You do have to cut it some slack though, because I mean this car's 15 years old and the design of this car is 17 or 18 years old now. So things like the sat-nav are laughable actually. I think it still lists Germany as 2 countries. Obviously you can't stream your music via Bluetooth either, which is a bit of a shame. Instead, this thing plays something called a compact disc? No, me neither. But the rest of it is fairly timeless. And the quality, I'm lost for words with it because everything you touch is just so much better than any other car I've ever been in. Obviously this one's the Mulliner spec, so that helps a great deal, but every single thing is wrapped in hand-stitched leather. Even the headline, and it's just, even the sun visors, everything is a work of art. I even read that the steering wheel takes up to 6 hours of somebody actually sat there stitching it together. And when you consider this car's 15 years old, there's not a creak, rattle, squeak. It's impressive. I suppose that's what you get for £120,000 when it was new. But when you consider that you can pick these up from as little as £15,000, I can't think of anything else you could buy for the same sort of money that would be built to this standard. The clock is made by Breitling, obviously, and every single button has the weighty feel of an expensive pen. You can change the gears manually too. You've got these two paddle shifters here, which stick out like Shrek's ears. But most of the time you don't see them. They're exactly where you'd need them to be though, so it's quite a clever design. Every piece of leather is finely stitched and it's of the highest quality. Every piece of metal is knurled or polished. It's such an event, this car, every time you step inside. Don't worry, by the way, about all the VW bits and pieces, because it really isn't an issue. They've done well to disguise them by covering everything in leather, wood or metal. I do have a couple of gripes with the interior. Now, I think you probably know where this is going, don't you? Yes, it's the cup holders. So the cup holders are here under these armrests, which means anything that you put in that cup holder fouls on the armrest. So you have to make the decision between a nice latte or a nice place to rest your elbow. It's like Sophie's Choice. When you're spending £120,000 on a car, I don't have to make any important decisions like that. Also, one other letdown with the interior. There's no heated steering wheel as standard. Now, I think that's terrible on a car of this value. You might think a heated steering wheel is just a modern fad, but I've had 2002 Range Rovers which have had heated steering wheels as standard, and yet this Bentley doesn't. This car's also all-wheel drive, which is really reassuring as you're throwing it into these bends. Interior space is pretty good. You've got plenty of storage compartments. The visibility is pretty good. You feel like you're in something quite big, and then when you actually get out and wander around it, it's not that big. It's no bigger than a Jaguar XK, really. You get two seats back there, which are bigger than the seats you'd find in an XK or a 911. You wouldn't want to go on a long trip sat back there, but they're better than most. The boot is very spacious too, and it opens really cleverly. You just have to tap the Flying B logo and it pops open. The bonnet opens in a similar way, actually. You pull the Flying B logo up and then all is revealed. Now, just because you can buy a Bentley for the same price as a new Fiesta doesn't mean that you're going to get new Fiesta running costs. That kind of goes without saying. So we'd better talk about running costs, hadn't we? I'm guessing if you're in the market for one of these cars, you probably fancy one as a weekend car. Just a bit of a toy, really, just for going on weekend trips away, things like that. And that's fine, that's what it's made for. If you do 25,000 miles a year for work, or you're thinking of doing a bit of Uber driving in your spare time, then this obviously isn't the car for you. But so far, I've actually been pleasantly surprised with the running costs. Seriously. I was expecting this to be terrible on fuel, appalling. I've read loads of reviews that say you'll get single-digit MPG. That just hasn't been the case. It costs just over £100 to fill the tank with premium fuel. Don't ever, by the way, use cheapskate fuel because it will ping on an engine light. Spark plugs and coil packs are quite sensitive in this car. Round town, you'll do 14, 15 miles per gallon. And on a motorway run, well, on the way back from Devon recently, this thing averaged 22.8. I was quite impressed with that. It certainly isn't the single-digit MPG that I was expecting. And if you're thinking of buying one of these cars, then you need to know what to expect. So please don't turn into one of those moaning minis about fuel. I see these kinds of people at work all the time. Is it a 16 or a 2 litre? Oh, it's a 2 litre. Oof. Oh no, I'm not going to touch one of those. You know, my mate, he had a Granada injection, 2.8. Oh, it were a thirsty bugger. You put your foot down, you can see the fuel gauge moving. Well, no, you couldn't, so shut it and get off my forecourt. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. Don't know where that came from. But all in all, in exchange for being able to drive a Bentley, I don't think 14, 15 miles per gallon is that bad. I know we're in 2020 and that probably sounds terrible, doesn't it? But this isn't the car that you're going to use every day, is it? You're just going to take it for a blast on a Sunday like this. Right, we're going on a detour, ladies and gents. Never been down here before. This car is astonishing. Road tax is a bit of a bargain too, because this is a pre-2006 model. It's only £330 a year, not the £585 that you'll pay for one from 06 onwards. So that's not too bad. I mean, you can set up a direct debit for that for £28 a month. Servicing costs aren't too bad either. Now, I've booked this in with Bentley Manchester for a full service because although it's only done, I think, 3,000 miles since its last service, time-wise it's due one, so I thought I'd get it done by the professionals. What I'm about to say now will probably make me sound like one of those out-of-touch politicians who doesn't know the price of a pint of milk, and you'll probably balk at the figure. But for a full service at a Bentley main agent, well, I'll just tell you the price. It's £1,195. which I thought was quite reasonable. Bentley are quite good in that they do fixed price servicing for their older cars. So for a minor service, I think it's about 700 quid, and for a full service, it's just under 1200. They'll come out and pick the car up for you and drop it back to you. And so far, everyone I've dealt with at Bentley have been so friendly and helpful. They really can't do enough for you. Quite opposite from the experiences that I get when I call Vauxhall or Citroën or Peugeot. Hello, can I speak to parts, please? What? You want parts? Hang on. They're not in a minute. Alright, okay. Could you ask them to call me back then, maybe? What? I'm on my lunch in a minute. Alright then. I'll try again later then, shall I? Whereas at Bentley, it's all, hello, Mr. Goodwin. Would you like us to pick up the car from yourself, sir, or... Of course, you could service this car yourself, or take it to your local garage for a fraction of that cost. But I just thought, I mean, this car's so nice, I would just keep up the Bentley main dealer service history. And eventually when I come to sell it, it will help its case. On a 19,000 mile Bentley like this, I didn't want to get it done on my driveway by Bob's Mobile Mechanic. Another positive is, you only need to service these cars every 10,000 miles. This isn't some fussy princess that needs an oil change every 2,500 miles. Parts will be expensive, I'm sure, when something goes wrong. But as I mentioned with the SL video that I filmed with the other day, they've made that many of these cars, and they've been around for that long, that you'll be able to find most replacement parts in scrapyards or on eBay. Or there'll be replica copied parts on the internet. So I wouldn't be too frightened by the cost of parts. Obviously, if you go to a Bentley main dealer for every last little part, then be prepared to spend a fortune, but there are clever ways to run one of these cars. Plus, when something does go wrong from time to time, there are plenty of owners clubs and forums that you can join, and they will guide you through every little situation. I'm sure it'll be nothing that other members haven't experienced before. I could go into common issues with this car, but I'm not going to, for two main reasons. One, I could do a separate video on that, to be honest, couldn't I? Because I imagine there will be lots of common issues. But secondly, and more importantly, I think it would be a little bit unfair because, I mean, the car's 15 years old now, so parts will start to fail and deteriorate. I mean, it's just part and parcel of owning a 15-year-old car. The same thing will happen with my M3 and anything else that I own. You've got to expect that. You know, things like bonnet struts, window regulators, turbos even, things like that, they could go wrong. But I think it would be unfair on the car to say, oh, I wouldn't buy one of those because your passenger side window regulator might fail. And get one on eBay. My best advice really would be find a decent specialist and just stick with them. They're likely to know the car like the back of their hand, and they will be able to advise you and try and save you some money here or there. But I certainly wouldn't let it put me off buying one. I mean, this is a dream car for many, and you don't want to find yourself at the pearly gates and think, God, I wish I'd have bought one of those Bentleys, but I didn't because Tyler Hoover bought one once that wasn't very good. Do you know what I mean? If it's your dream car, go and get one. This is one of those cars. This is a YOLO car. I mean, fundamentally, what you're in is a large VW with lots of VW and Audi parts. So it shouldn't be all bad news, should it? You would expect the build quality to be pretty good. One thing to mention though, one important thing. Now this is sort of it's a victim of its own design or success really, because this isn't the kind of car that you're going to use every day. And when you leave them sitting and don't use them, the batteries can go flat, and they have two batteries. So the best thing, or the best advice I can give you, is buy yourself a decent trickle charger and just leave it on a trickle charge. Because when the batteries run low, it will throw up the odd error message and probably frighten you to death. So it's important to remember that this is a YOLO car. You only live once. It's one of those things that you might just have to buy just to get out of your system. And I get that, I'm exactly the same. It's not as if you're thinking, right, I need to buy a car. Should I buy a 15-year-old Bentley or should I buy a brand new Toyota Yaris? Nobody's ever going to think that. You're obviously after something a little bit special, so you've got to expect the odd special bill now and then. And if you're not prepared to deal with that, then don't buy one. There are lots of used examples out there from as little as £15,000. My honest advice would be steer clear of those cheap ones. You're going to need to spend about 22 or 3 to get yourself a decent one. That's true of all luxury cars. Never buy the cheapest. You'd be surprised how many people ask me for advice and then 2 weeks later they get in touch and they've bought the cheapest thing and they've been ripped off, or it's just a complete lemon. I think, well, what did you expect? It's human nature at the end of the day. People can't get it into their head that you're better off spending a little bit more so you don't have to spend as much in repairs rather than just buying the cheapest thing you can find. A friend of mine was recently looking for one of these cars, so he'd occasionally send me a message with a registration number for a Bentley GT that he'd seen and asked me if I'd HPI it to make sure that it hadn't been rolled, written off, or there was a load of finance outstanding on it. And every single one, I mean, I presume he was looking at the cheapest ones all the time, but every single one was just hilarious to report back, because they'd always, I mean, some had had 5 colour changes. Another one that I'd seen had 18 owners. And then there was another one which was actually wanted by the police. So if you only take one snippet of advice from me, let it be that. Don't buy the cheapest, ever, because it isn't. It's so short-sighted. You need to buy the nicest one you can afford, preferably from somebody with an OBE and electric gates, rather than somebody that you meet in a Tesco car park. Well, yeah, but it was cheap, Matt. Basically, the most important question you can ask when you inquire about a Bentley is, are you a member of the National Trust? That will separate the wheat from the chaff. Quite simple, really. So there's my buying advice in a nutshell. Look for a low owner, low mileage example with lots of Bentley service history, or at least Bentley specialist service history, preferably from somebody called Hugo Poshington Farquhar. And also, go for a Mulliner. Don't be a cheapskate. This is a Bentley. This might be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, so buy a Mulliner. You could also go for the Flying Spur, the 4-door saloon version, but I think they look like a wedding car. You could also go for a convertible, which I think are gorgeous, but you'll pay a 10 grand premium for one of those, and I'm not sure it's worth it. I just can't think of a better car that you can buy for around £20,000. A 550 horsepower 4-wheel drive luxury opulent coupe. This is as good as it gets. I was going to say, let me know in the comments if you can think of something better for the same sort of money, but you're just wasting your time because there isn't anything. With this, you get supercar performance with Dorchester refinement, a Savoy experience for Savoy money. Plus you have the soulful hum of a W12, which you just can't beat. I'm fortunate enough to have had lots of nice cars in my lifetime, lots of lovely cars in fact. But, well, to paraphrase Sinead O'Connor, nothing compares to this. It's like flying everywhere your whole life in economy, and then suddenly, just that one time, being able to turn left into business. It's like being a fan of Stockport County your whole life, and then suddenly going to see Manchester City play under Guardiola while we're on fire. It is that good. One last thing before I go. If you do feel brave enough to buy one of these cars, please, I beg you, don't refer to it as a Conti. I've heard people do this. It just makes you sound like a right Conti.
Well, that was the Bentley Continental GT, and sadly a couple of months after filming that video I sold it, and I kind of regret it. That really was the one to keep. It was finished in midnight emerald metallic, which is a beautiful colour, over that oatmeal interior. It was a really stunning car. It's funny actually, because I really didn't want to sell it, but it turned out to be one of the most profitable deals I've ever made, and I just couldn't turn it down. Okay, next on the list then, let's get back to earth. This was a 2010 Fiat Panda that I bought for just £250. I don't know what it was about this humble little Panda, but I instantly bonded with it. On paper it's the exact opposite of the Bentley. This doesn't have any presence at all, it isn't quick, it doesn't look pretty, and yet I just love it. And unlike the Bentley, I actually kept the Panda. In fact, I'm going to do a video with it in the next couple of weeks, so keep your eye out on this channel because it will be featured. I've had the little Panda now for about 3 or 4 years and it's never let me down. You know what I like most about it? It's just a little character. I don't really know what it is, it's just kind of charming in a way. It's easy to park, it's very good on fuel, it's quite fun to drive. I just really like it. What's funny is that I bought this car with absolutely zero expectations. Of course I wasn't planning to keep it, it just came in at the garage and I thought, well, let's do a video with it. So here it is, let me show you how it all started.
Alright guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Well, today I'm in this 2013 Mercedes C220 CDI, but that isn't the subject for today's video. Today we're on the way to go and pick up a Fiat Panda that I've just bought for £250. I really like the Fiat Panda. I couldn't tell you why, because the build quality is poor, they're not the most spacious or practical, they're not the best to drive or look at. Thinking about it, I don't really know why I like them, I just do. They're just honest. An honest little city car that will get you from A to B. Just don't expect it to get you to Z, or Z. Z. You might be wondering why this little Fiat Panda is so cheap. Surely you can't find a working, driving car these days for £250. Well, let's find out, shall we? Because I don't know a great deal more than you do. One thing I do know is that this has done 150,000 miles, so quite a lot of miles for a little car. I just think that at £250, I can't really go wrong, can I? Famous last words. Right, I'll see you there. Well, we're here. What a little beauty that is. We've got a missing wheel trim, driver's side front. It's bright red. No roof bars. Oh, we've got matching wheel trims on the passenger side. Look at that. It's from the northeast of England, judging by the reg, and we've got a lot of lacquer peel on the bonnet, some peel on the wiper arms, cloudy headlamps. The rear, yeah, the near side rear door looks like it's had paint. What a treat. Tyres look alright though, skinny little tyres. Right, let's do a quick vehicle history check using Car Vertical. Tell us a little bit more about it. So we're going to go to carvertical.com and type in the vehicle reg, which is November Kilo 10 Echo Golf Foxtrot. It's really clever this. For the price of a round of drinks in the pub, it'll check to see if it's been stolen, ever been involved in any accidents, has outstanding finance on it. It just gives you a little bit more information before you hand over any cash. Now for £250 it doesn't really matter if it's been involved in an accident, but forewarned is forearmed, or is it the other way around? Anyway. If you want to do one of these checks yourself, and I urge you to do so before handing over any money, then click the link below in the video description and use the promo code HIGHPEAK and you get 10% off each and every vehicle check that you do. That offer isn't just for your first one, by the way, you can use it every single time. I recently bought a VW Phaeton, and before I went to look at a single car, I spent half an hour first on Car Vertical checking them all out. It's really important that you do that. Right, this report is ready. That is a Fiat Panda. Check. It's found the mileage to be genuine, it's never been stolen, never been involved in any accidents, and there's no outstanding finance, so we're all clear. It was registered in the UK in April 2010. On its first MOT it had an oil leak. Surprise, surprise. By the time it had its second MOT, its offside rear shock absorbers were slightly worn. Then it failed on a tyre. Bit of a checkered history, this one. Let's see if it's got any MOT on it whatsoever. It's got an MOT until next September. There are a few advisory items. Offside front suspension arm pin or bush worn. Rear tyre slightly damaged. Parking brake lever has little reserve travel. Offside rear upper shock absorbers have a slightly worn bush. And windscreen damaged, but not adversely affecting the driver's view. That means a stone chip in the window. That's a little bit fussy, isn't it? Let's go and have a look around it then. I've got the one key. Let's go and have a look. Well, it does look a little sorry for itself, but for 250 quid, quite happy with that. We've got a triangle tyre on the front. Actually, that could be the spare, you know. It's on about 5mm. Lacquer peel on the wing there. Actually, paint peel, because it's rotten. Quite straight on the panels. We've got a Michelin on the back, on about 4mm. Needs a good clean, this. This could actually clean up very well. No roof rails. Always quite like those roof rails. Moving around the back, we've got a Springfield Motor Group plate. NE38. Whereabouts is that? I'm not sure. Hanging off wiper blade there. Gives me a wiper blade. It's very dirty, but we've got the parcel shelf in there, so that's fine. Does the remote lock it? No, it does. Moving around the front, we've got a non-matching plate from Halfords. We've got stone chips, which has caused all this lacquer peel here. The wiper arms are a bit corroded, need some matte black. But it looks alright, doesn't it? Have we got a matching... Oh, we do have a matching triangle. Maybe I'm wrong about the spare. So we've got triangles on the front and Michelin's on the back. Look at that. That's on about 3mm. I don't even know which model this is yet. Should have read that Phil Car Vertical report, shouldn't I? I was in a rush to see what I've bought. Let's have a look inside then. See if the inside is as dirty as the outside. Oh yes. Hasn't disappointed, has it? Look at the state of this. It's full of gravel. I'm at the bottom of a fish tank. We've got seat covers on. Lots of wrappers here for boiled sweets. Someone's raided a doctor's waiting room there, haven't they? That's a suspicious little bag here with some plastic bits in. Don't know what they are. Well, it stinks. It smells of dog, and you can see dog hairs everywhere. But let's not forget, it's £250, so I'm not too disappointed. Got an old Blaupunk stereo there. Cobwebs. Have we got, yep, electric front windows. manual ones in the back. It's filthy, but we've got, yeah, look at this. If I take these seat covers off, it's all quite clean under there. This is one of those cars that I could improve very quickly. Have a look under the bonnet and see what. 153 on the dial. Where's the bonnet release on one of these? Didn't hear anything then, this might be broken. Oh no. We've got lift off here. Diesel. 1.3 I think, so that'll be the same engine as in that Fiat Grande Punta that I filmed with recently. That's funny. I just tried to let my arm off that, and the bonnet hinges are so stiff it'll hold itself up there without the bonnet stay. Bit of Italian engineering for you there. Well, the chassis legs are straight. It all looks like the engine bay of a 150,000 mile car, this, but it's not too rusty. J-cloth for me there. Right, well, I've seen worse. Oh, there, it tells us on the door. 1.3 16 valve multi-jet diesel dynamic. Let's fire her up. Wait for the glow plugs, turn my heater off. Quite a noisy fan there actually. Oh yes. No warning lights on. What are the odds? Turn my wipers off. It's not as noisy as it once was. Windows, do they work? One works there. Other one. Perfect. £250 this. Quite pleased. I think £20 on a mini valet could transform this. Bin these horrible seat covers and expose the pleasantness underneath. Paperwork then. I shan't show you the specific details for fear of being sued. Okay, so the year before had an advice for a noisy wheel bearing. Ah, right, this explains the high mileage. This has been owned by Alphabet Fleet Management. So that is the service history. That's handy, isn't it? Shows you everything that's been done. And where it was done. How helpful. Very good. So it does have a bit of history then. Oh, we've got a book pack as well here. I have been spoilt with this. We'll look at the old service book. Well, I saw a couple of oh, look at this. Right. It was serviced in 2010, 2012. Again in 2012. They did a lot of miles, didn't they? Again in 2012. They do 12,000 miles every 3 months. So by the time it was 2 years old, this had done 48,000 miles. Then I'm guessing it changed owners. Yeah, Northeast car, Durham. And then nothing since 2013. That's not true because I've got some other prints off there. Now this engine is a chain-driven engine. So with a fresh oil and filter, this might be okay, this. I've just had a thought, we've not looked in the boot yet, have we? What treasures await us back there? So we've got a split wiper blade, as we know. Can repair that or replace that for a £5. We've got a parcel shelf. New set of wipers there. Right, I think that's too big then for the rear, isn't it? But, oh, hang on a minute. Looks used, doesn't it? Then? CDs and DVDs 50p each. Someone's been doing a car boot in this, haven't they? Beanie Babies, £1. Plants, bin bag. I was hoping to see the wheel trim No such luck. That looks like the original spare, doesn't it, Pirelli? I feel like Fiat would use Pirellis. Right. Got some suspicious rope here. I quite like this car. Even the struts work. Look at that. In the back, we can take these covers off and give it a good clean. Oh, very good. Very good. Dimmer winders work. Bit stiff, but yes. I think we'll give it a drive then. We've got half a tank of diesel. The power steering works. Does it work on both sides? I would say it does. That's a real common issue with these, same as the Punto. They have this electronic power steering column, which tends to fail, and it's about £300 to repair, so had that gone on this, it wouldn't be worth fixing. Oh, nearly died then. Let me open the gate. I don't know about you, but I hate these. Look at the filth in that. It's disgusting. Those and steering wheel covers, put them in the bin. Right, and we are away. Didn't clunk over the little speed bump there. You know, I said I can't remember why I like these cars. When you drive one, you'll know exactly what I mean. They're just kind of, they're quite fun. You sit up high, everything's really accessible. It's just one of those cars which doesn't take itself too seriously. We've not done the old radio station check, have we? What was the previous owner listed? Oh, look at that. 406 Coupe. What was the previous owner listening to? Moment of truth time. Classic. Classic FM. That tells you everything you need to know about the previous owner. They were mature and had good taste. Well, apart from the engine being a little bit tappety, it drives very well. It might just be crying out for an oil change, this. It might not have had one for a couple of years. We're in 4th gear. Goes into every gear fine. 5th. Perfect. You know what, for 153,000 miles on a Fiat... Oh, hang on a minute. We've got a warning light. My little power steering lights come on. Don't really know why. It's not gone heavy or anything, it all seems to be working fine. Might have to plug that in and see what's wrong with it. Does the city steering work? Where it goes really light. Yeah, look at that. Very good. I think I've got a bit of a bargain here. Not sitting in that traffic, so we're going on a bit of a detour. Start to steam up here though. This 1.3 litre turbo diesel engine will do about 60 miles per gallon. The turbo's engaging. Granted, it isn't the quickest thing in the world, but it is a 1300cc engine. It's not a bad little car, this. I think what I'm going to do then is drop it in my local car wash, take off the seat covers and ask them to do a quick vacuum out and wash. See what it looks like after that. If it looks okay, I might run it to my mechanics and get them to do a minor service, an oil and filter change, just see how bad it is. I'll also ask them to plug it in and see why that little light's on. Don't like lights. I'm mildly impressed with this. It's alright. Whoa there, nearly wrote me off. £250. Bargain. This is the kind of car that if I spent £100 on, I'm pretty sure I can advertise this at £795, £895, £995. Part exchange to clear. It might do somebody for a year or two. Right, on that note, I will catch up with you in a couple of days. Cheers, guys. And we're back, and I'm really pleased with the transformation on this one. It looks nothing like the car that you saw in that car park 3 or 4 weeks ago. It just shows you can make money from cars at any price point. Don't laugh now, but I'm actually thinking about keeping it. I just really enjoy driving it. There's something really liberating about driving something so tiny and valueless. When I first had the idea about keeping it, I thought this would make an ideal train station car. Just leave it in the train station car park and it doesn't really matter if it gets vandalised or stolen. Then I suddenly remembered I don't actually use the trains all that often. I think the last time I was on a train was about 1976. So the idea of keeping this as a train station car park car is a bit pointless. That's just me trying to create a reason to keep it. Anyway, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it yet, but I'm pretty sure there's profit in it. I've managed to keep the costs quite low on this one. So let me pull up somewhere scenic and I'll talk you through those costs. It's beautiful up here today. Everywhere's got a light dusting of white powder, like the top of a hand dryer in a Marbella public toilet. Gotta be so careful driving in snow. What I should do is buy a set of winter tyres for this and then just use it as my winter beater. Winter beater. Here'll do. Right, so where was I? Firstly then I took it down to my mechanics for a oil and filter change and a set of wiper blades front and rear and a general check over. That cost me £109. Now there are a few advisory items. So firstly, there is slight play in the offside front ball joint. Neither here nor there. It doesn't clunk or anything, it's not hardly worth doing. Next up, both rear tyres are perished and they've only got 3.5mm of tread left. In addition to that, we've got an offside rear shocker casing is corroded. Front discs slightly corroded, but the pads are very good. Now, there's also a slight oil leak, which they suspected was possibly coming from the turbo and the sump. So what they've done is spray some brake cleaner on it just to clear it all up, and then they've told me to run it and then take it back there and see if they can identify where it's coming from. And also the auxiliary belt's cracked and perished. So when I run it back there to see where the oil leak's coming from, I'll get them to change the auxiliary belt at the same time. It won't be an expensive job. So that was £109. In addition to that, I ordered a new wheel trim off eBay. Now I could have stuck a set of spurious wheel trims on it for £20, but instead I thought the other three are matching, I'll order a genuine one. So that was £23 for a new used wheel trim, which I really begrudge paying for because it's not in the best condition. But anyway, we've got a complete set now and it does look quite genuine. Then I ordered a set of reg plates, which have instantly lifted it. I know you always mock, but trust me, they always lift a car. They cost me £12. I ordered a set of tailored mats from eBay, they cost me £15. Again, they just make the interior look really tidy. Such a quick, cheap fix. In between all this, I took it down to my valeters and left it for a full valet. Now, if you remember, it was a bit of a pigsty, and they only charged me £50, and they've done an incredible job. I asked them to rip off the old seat covers, and under the seat covers, they're all in really good condition. Apart from the driver's seat, actually, which has got a very small rip, but on a 150,000 mile Panda, it's not worth repairing. But overall, it is in really good condition, this car. Quite surprised. I'm genuinely quite smitten with it, I don't know why. And that's it. So I paid £250 for the car, £109 at my mechanics, £50 for a valet, £12 for some number plates, £15 for some mats, and £23 for a wheel trim. So my total is, I've worked this out already, £459. I'm really pleased with that for £459. For example, I've just had my Range Rover serviced at Land Rover, and that cost me, down a pothole then, that cost me significantly more than £459 just for a service. And this is 459 quid for this whole car. I'm genuinely thinking of keeping it, not even joking. Just something really honest about it. I like it. Although I haven't spent a fortune on it, I could have kept those costs even lower had I done the work myself. I just haven't got the time. I could have quite easily shaved £100 off the cost of preparing this. But as anyone with a small business will tell you, sometimes you're better off spending your time doing other things. You can't do everything, so don't try. But I could have quite easily done. Had I been at the start of my career, then I'd have cleaned it myself, maybe given it a service myself, changed the oil and filter, changed the wipers. Although I did fit the number plates myself. That is all me. This little Panda stands me at under £500, and I'm pretty sure it's worth double that. I think I could sell this easily at $995 or even $1295. And I love doing deals like that. It's just a quick in and out, profit in the bank. Well, I think that's about it.
So there we go, that was the Fiat Panda. Like I say, I've still got it 3 or 4 years later, and it'll feature on this channel very soon. Next on the list then is my 2002 Mercedes SL, but this isn't any run-of-the-mill SL. This is the SL55 AMG. This is the R230 SL which came out in 2002, and it was my dream car as a kid. I just always wanted one. I didn't just want any old SL55 either, I wanted a specific one. I wanted a silver one with a berry red interior. Back when I was a teenager, this was my dream car. This was like my poster car. And then fast forward, I don't know, about 20 years, and I got the opportunity to buy one.
Alright guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Today I'm back in my 2002 Mercedes SL55 AMG. I bought this car back in September last year from a viewer, along with a Bentley Continental GT. easily the two best cars or nicest cars I've ever bought. The Bentley had only done 18,000 miles when I bought it, and this Mercedes SL had only done 16,000 miles when I bought it. They just aren't the sort of cars you see on a daily basis, unless of course you live in Wilmslow or Chigwell. And I've got to say, I absolutely love it. So much so it's turned me into Gary Barlow, hasn't it? It's absolutely fantastic. Now before we get onto the proper review, if you fancy winning something like this, the guys over at BOTB have got 2 cars to give away every single week, 52 weeks of the year. They've got some unbelievable cars that they're giving away at the moment, so click the link below in the description and you can have a look for yourself at some of the tasty cars they've got there. They do a dream car competition as well as a midweek competition. Now every single dream car competition comes with £50,000 in cash as well as the car. So you don't have to worry about how you're going to fill it up or how you're going to service it because, like I say, they give away £50,000. So rather than wasting the evening looking on Auto Trader at cars that you've got no intention of buying, click the link below in the description and you can have a look at what BOTB have got for offer. You only have to be 17 years or older to enter, and the tickets start at as little as £1.50. And as if that wasn't enough, they'll also help out with the first year insurance and servicing, and all their cars are brand new. To date, they've given away over £35 million worth of cars to over 540 lucky winners. So check out BOTB's website by clicking the link below in the description, and you could find yourself behind the wheel of an AMG Mercedes or whatever you fancy. There really is something for everybody. Anyway, back to today's car. So the 2002 Mercedes SL55 AMG has been around since 2002 and ran all the way until 2007 when it was replaced with the SL63 AMG. When this car was first released 19 years ago, I mean, can you imagine this car's 19 years old? It still looks fresh in my opinion. Anyway, when it was released, it cost £90,000. I mean, £90,000 19 years ago. That's the equivalent of £140,000 today. Just to put that into some sort of context, my first house cost me £118,000. That wasn't all that long ago. Anyway, the interesting thing is, you can pick up these SL55s from as little as £10,000. Although that will get you a scruffy high mileage example, which isn't something that I'd recommend. I would always advise that you steer clear of the cheapest examples out there because they're probably just basket cases that will cost you a fortune in the long run. So it's far better to spend £5,000 or £8,000 more and get yourself a decent one. When I bought this one, it was in excellent condition and I've still spent thousands and thousands of pounds on it, bringing it up to scratch. I'll go over those bills with you in a little while. The issue with this particular car was, in the last 5 years, it had only covered 150 miles. And that doesn't do cars any good, they like to be ran. So it did have quite a few faults, all of which have now been ironed out, and it is superb. So under the long and very pretty bonnet is a 5.4 litre supercharged V8. The engine produces 470 horsepower, which is 170 horsepower more than you get from an SL500. Thinking about it, it's an SL500 plus a Ford Focus ST170. And 470 horsepower in a rear-wheel drive car like this is about 100 horsepower too many, because all that happens is you stamp on the accelerator and the rear wheels just spin. It's quite theatrical though. So we'll do the old bypass test, shall we? So I'm approaching the bypass now. It's a bit wet, but I'm on new tyres, so whoa! All right, I've bottled that slightly. That's one way to get your heart racing, isn't it? Let me try that again. Hang on. Oh dear. That's just silly. What an awesome car. The engine itself is put together by hand in the AMG factory in Germany, which gives me confidence, the fact that it's hand built in Germany. If it was hand built in England, all that means is there's a quarter width socket in cylinder 3, or the crust of a bacon butty. But no, hand built in Germany gives me all the confidence in the world. Anyway, all that power has transformed the SL. It's gone from a Saint-Tropez cruiser to a tire-eating menace. Oh, that's so addictive. It's just so intoxicating. It produces nearly 500 pound-feet of torque, and it sounds like thunder. It's epic. The great thing about the SL is when you don't want to be a hooligan, you can just sit back and cruise. Cruise control's set. That's it, nice and chilled out. It is the perfect Grand Tourer. I also love the styling of this car. Now, I'm a big fan of the standard SL, but the SL55 just looks way better. I love the quad exhausts. I love the different tail lights. When the convertible top's in place, it's quite well insulated, so you can't hear an awful lot of road noise or wind noise. But when it's down, all you hear is that V8 rumble. You stamp on the accelerator and it makes the noise of a T-Rex that's been kicked in the nuts. I really wish the weather was better today, because I'd be driving with the roof down. But it isn't. It's a bit of a wolf in sheep's clothing, this car, because unless you're really into your cars, you'd never have any idea that this is a 202 mile an hour Autobahn Stormer. I love the colour combination too. Brilliant silver with this berry interior. It just suits the car to a T. I know in a previous video where I featured this car, somebody commented and suggested it looked like something Joan Collins would drive. And I have to admit, it's a bit Beverly Hills, isn't it? Every time I would watch MTV Cribs as a kid, the moment they got to the garage, there was always an SL55 in there. Always. It was just the car of choice for anybody with money in the early noughties. Speaking of celebrities, famous owners of the SL55 include Tom Jones, who's suave and sophisticated, Steve Jobs, who's a visionary and a genius, Jeremy Clarkson, who I like to think knows a thing or two about what makes a car good, and who else? Dale Winton. Moving on. The interior is a very special place to be. It's helped the fact that this has only done 17,000 miles and everything you touch is like new. But still, the actual design is fairly timeless. And I love the attention to detail. All the finely stitched leather. All the leather actually is soft to touch and supple. It's gorgeous, it really is. This really does feel like a time warp piece. I feel guilty taking it out in the wet, to be honest. Because this was a £90,000 car, it's obviously got some nice optional extras. For example, it's got heated and cooled seats, keyless entry, keyless go. Some of the gadgets are showing their age a little bit though. For example, it's got a mobile telephone, which allows you to have a verbal conversation with somebody else who's got a similar contraption. There's a device here which turns your compact discs into sound. It also has a satellite navigation system which would only impress Raymond Baxter. I love how you start it makes you feel like a fighter pilot. You jump in it with the keys in your pocket and you just put your thumb on the engine start button on the gear shifter. Makes you feel like Tom Cruise in Top Gun. Speaking of which, I love how you fold down the electric roof. It's behind this panel here. Very Maverick. All it's missing really is a night panel button like you'd get on an old Saab. It only takes 16 seconds to open or close. It's just a brilliant piece of engineering. It's like watching ballet. I think you've probably gathered this by now, but the performance is impressive. It uses a 5-speed automatic gearbox. All SL55s used a 5-speed, which I prefer over the 7G, the 7-speed box, which was a later edition. You can also knock it into manual mode and change the gears using these buttons behind the steering wheel, but to measure the speed of those gear changes, you really need a calendar. So I'd rather just keep it in drive and let it do its thing. Anyone who's driven an old smart car will know exactly what I'm talking about. It handles very well, it's a blast to drive, it's incredibly tail happy, so you do have to watch out. I mean, it's not as nimble or as agile as a 911, but unless you're taking it on a track or something, does it really matter? I would say not, personally. For me, a car doesn't have to be technically brilliant to be brilliant. One slight issue is how easy the rear wheels will spin. I say issue, it's not really an issue for me because I love the childishness of it. I imagine it might be an issue if you're the chair of Hanforth Parish Council. No, Jackie! Stop spinning the wheels! You just get the impression this car, you could have it sideways on literally every single road, which you do have to be careful of. The ride quality of the SL is sublime. Now, that's thanks to its clever ABC hydraulic suspension setup, which I know can cause headache, heartache, and then divorce, but when it's working, it's lovely. The suspension is fully adjustable, which means you can raise or lower the height, a bit like a Range Rover. But not unlike a Range Rover, it can be expensive to repair. It just always seems to give you the best setup. When you just want to go for a chilled out drive, it's supremely comfortable. But then the moment you're late for a meeting, say, it goes all firm and sporty. I'm currently being tailgated by a little Fiesta who I think wants to see the contents of my boot. So, just have to remind him what we're in for a second. So long, sucker. Running costs are obviously higher than a Honda Jazz, I think that's a given, but not horrendously so. Fuel, you'll do 15 or 16 miles per gallon around town. but you'll do 27, 28 miles per gallon on a motorway run, which isn't bad at all, is it? Another thing that's quite reasonable is the insurance cost. Given the age of this thing, it now qualifies for classic insurance, so that won't cost you an arm or a leg. Standard servicing costs aren't prohibitive either. They're not that much more expensive than any other SL. And the road tax is cheap. Because this is a pre-2006, it's only £330 a year, which compared to lots of other countries is a bargain. Regarding servicing, I would find a good Mercedes specialist and stick with them because they can be quite temperamental. That leads me on to probably the only negative thing I can tell you about the SL55, and that's the repair bills. Nothing is cheap to repair on this car. I bought this car when it was 18 years old at the time, and it had only done 16,000 miles. For the last 5 years, it had only done 150 miles in total. So there were quite a few issues that needed addressing. In fact, now's probably a good time to go through the bills, isn't it? Let me just find somewhere to park. So as soon as I bought the car, I took it straight to SPR, who are an independent Mercedes specialist in Stockport, who I always use. I left it with them for basically whatever it needed. So it had a full engine service, spark plugs, filters, the whole lot. It had a gearbox service, basically because it was just 18-year-old fluid. It had an ABC service, so they changed the fluid in the filter in the hydraulic system, and it also had a brake fluid change. The air conditioning wasn't working, so it had an aircon regas. The batteries and the keys weren't working. The engine light was on, which turned out to be an O2 sensor, and also the central locking wasn't working, and I had a battery light on. So, like I say, quite a few issues. But oh, I forgot how expensive that was. That was quite a dear bill, and that wasn't all of it. So the full service, 2 new batteries, because this has 2 batteries, one small one there to start the engine, and one in the boot there to power up all of James Burke's accessories. So the main battery was £115, the rear battery was £170. Unfortunately though, even after replacing both batteries, it didn't knock out the battery warning light, so it needed a battery control unit, which cost £522 plus VAT. So my total bill was £2,016.29. That wasn't all. When I picked it up, the central locking was working because I think they cleaned the contacts in the central locking control module or whatever, and it was working for a short period of time. But then within 3 days it had failed again. So I took it back to SPR and had a new central locking control unit, which, let me find the bill for that. It has got reams and reams of history, this car. It's got all the old tax discs, all the old MOTs. I can't find the receipt for the central locking control unit, but it was, I think it was about 800 and something pounds plus fitting. So that cost me another £1,000. Then I took it for its MOT, which it obviously passed, so that was another £40. So we're up to about £3,000 now, give or take. And the next job was the alloy wheels. Now, I'm not a huge fan of these multi-spoke wheels that are found on this SL, but they are unique to the SL55. I just think they're a little bit hectic and a little bit too busy, but they're original, so I thought I would keep them. So I took it to Prestige Wheels in Stockport, who refurbished them. So they dipped them, stripped them, and then powder coated them, and they are like new now. That cost me £288. I then paid £76.80 with Mercedes Stockport for 4 brand new wheel centres, because I didn't want to go on eBay and get some Jekylls. Also, while they had the tyres off, there was nothing really wrong with the tyres. They'd passed an MOT with no advices, but they were like 10 or 12 years old, so I thought I'll treat it to a set of Pirelli P0s. So, just 2 days ago, I spent £716.40 on 4 brand new Pirelli P0 tyres. So that takes my total to about £4,000. I know £4,000 is a hell of a lot of money, but this car deserved it. I couldn't have neglected it, could I? I had to do all those jobs properly. So, in my mind, I think it was worth every penny. And that's one thing I've learned about these SLs. No matter what the problem is, it will set you back about £1,000. Now, that figure will be too much to stomach for most, and it is to me, to be fair, for a car that I never use. But, well, you can't have it always, can you? They're cheap to buy and offer outstanding performance. So the only real downside is expensive repairs. I've picked possibly the worst day to go out filming with a Mercedes SL, haven't I? Something that you really must watch for with this era of Mercedes SL are the electronics. They are what the Germans would describe as Scheisse. They're uncharacteristically German. They really are the car's weak link. It's all just unnecessarily complicated. In addition to the dodgy electrics, the ABC system can also fail, and that can be quite an expensive fix. Also, there's some sort of design flaw which lets water into the boot, and water and electrics don't mix well. So if you're thinking of buying a Mercedes SL in general, or a 55 in particular, I would advise that you keep a few grand back for contingencies. In fact, you know how I always recommend that you keep a couple of grand back for a rainy day if you're buying a Range Rover? I would advise that you double that for SLs, especially the 55. When everything's working as it should, it's a brilliant car. It's pure theatre, it's fun and cheeky. It's just a pleasure to live with. I also love the fact that it's properly usable. There are loads of storage compartments, the boot's a very good size, just really easy to live with. I know that everyone says that the Porsche 911 is the most usable daily sports car, but I would have to argue with that. Yes, I know that on a track the 911 is a far superior car in terms of handling and dynamics, but in the real world, on real roads, I would argue that the SL's better. It's fun when you want it to be, and serious when you don't. If you ever look on Auto Trader, you can pick them up from anywhere between £10,000 and £12,000, but I would advise that you spend between 16 and 18 and get yourself a half decent one. You want to look for one with extensive service records that hasn't been abused. I think originality is key. I genuinely haven't got a clue what this one's worth because I've never seen one on the market with such low miles. I mean, it doesn't matter anyway because it's not for sale. This is a car that I will keep forever. I love it.
Well, that was the SL55 AMG, a car that I've still got to this day. So I've had that for about 5 years now. In fact, you'll have seen the car in last week's video because I took it down to my Mercedes specialist, SPR, for a service. It's a 23-year-old car now and I love it. It's only done 19,000 miles, it's still like new. I've got absolutely zero intention of selling that car. In fact, I think I'll keep it forever. Next on the list then is another dream car of mine. It was the AMG GT. Now, the AMG GT came out in 2015 and as soon as I saw one, I don't know, I went weak at the knees. I wanted one, I had to have one. But to be honest with you, there was something of a supercar, and I thought that's just out of my league. I'll probably never get one. Anyway, fast forward 6 years to 2021, and I could finally afford a used one. Now this car was on another level. It's a 200 mile an hour twin turbocharged V8 monster. It's a car that looks like it belongs in Monaco, and yet somehow it ended up on my driveway. I don't know either.
Alright guys, how's it going? Welcome back. I've recently bought a new car. It's something quite silly. In fact, this is very reckless. This is so unlike me. Let me tell you how it all started. One night in October last year, I had an epiphany. I'd had a few very trying months which completely wore me down. And to be honest with you, I was just completely down with everything. October 21 marked the 6th year anniversary of High Peak Autos, which, as you know, wasn't meant to be a permanent thing. It was just a stopgap for me. I'm not complaining at its success, but it had completely taken over my life. I just felt like a hamster on a wheel. I was totally stuck in a rut. I didn't do anything. I didn't have a life, didn't have a social life, just did the same boring thing every single day of my life. I'm quite an introspective person, so the thought of me just wasting my 6 years really got to me. On top of that, I was carrying too much weight. My clothes were tight, and even the clothes which did fit didn't look good. I was just properly miserable and fed up. And what made matters worse was every morning I'd wake up and I'd get a memory notification on Facebook from 8 or 9 or even 10 years ago. And it'd show me younger, more attractive, slimmer. Photos which were taken from my time in my life when I was full of hopes and dreams. And here I was, a 32-year-old podgy car dealer from Stockport. It wasn't exactly how I'd planned my life. I'd taken on too much. I was trying to juggle too many things. I was sick and tired of putting everybody else and everything else ahead of me. I felt like I'd wasted my 20s. Everybody else was out enjoying themselves probably, and I was at home struggling, stressing, saving, worrying. It was quite a depressing thought, that, because I just felt like I'd spent most of my 20s. I won't say depressed because that takes away from people who genuinely suffer from depression, but just properly fed up and stuck in a rut. I didn't want to waste my 30s in the same way. And that's when something just clicked. I realised I was the only person who could change it. So that's what I did. I started getting up at 5 AM and going to the gym. I cut out all the bad food I was eating, all the sugary rubbish food, all the cold coffees I was consuming. I stopped getting stressed out about work, which is easier said than done, but it just dawned on me, I'm selling used cars. It's not life or death, is it? Why am I getting so worried and stressed about these things? In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter, does it? I also stopped worrying about things which are out of my control. How can I control the behaviour or the actions of somebody else? On top of that, I even started going out, socialising, drinking, enjoying myself, putting myself first for a change.
Huh? Who would have thought? Not me.
Now here we are 3 months later, and I've lost 2 stone in weight. which is £28 if you're an American, or 12 point something kilos if you're European or Antipodean. It's quite a lot, and I can't tell you how much healthier I feel. I feel happier, healthier, wealthier. I just feel like a different person. I feel 10 years younger. Naturally, I went out on a bit of a shopping spree and treated myself to some new clothes, smaller clothes, and a new smaller belt. I just feel like I've got my confidence back, and I can't tell you how good that feels. I'm full of hope and positivity. I'm no longer stressed or irascible. Apologies for the ramblings, by the way, but I swear they are relevant. Now, buying new clothes just wasn't enough. I felt like the new Matt needed a new car. Something that the old Matt just would never consider. Something loud and obnoxious. Something silly. Something bold and brash. So that's exactly what I went out and bought. Shall I put you out of your misery? Well, here it is. It's this 2016 Mercedes AMG GT. Now, I've adored these cars ever since I first clapped tyres on one when they were released. In fact, if you recall, in my first Q&A video, I mentioned that one day I'd love one of these cars. I just didn't expect that one day to be quite so soon. My new car search didn't start out with the AMG GT though. I genuinely considered all sorts. My original plan was to sell my Range Rover, which I think is worth about 40 grand, add another 5 or 6 grand to it, and buy myself a nice Bentley Continental GT. That would have ticked all the boxes. It's flashier, sportier, quicker, perfect. Except the more I looked at them, the more I thought it's still a little bit too sensible, too reserved. I wanted something a little bit more shouty. That's when I started looking at 2016 facelift Bentley Continental GTs, specifically the 4-litre GT V8S. They look more aggressive. And according to all the reviews I watched, they're a little bit sportier too, so I thought that was perfect. But they're about £70,000. I think the Bentley Continental GT is great value for money at the 30 or 40 grand mark, but at £70,000, it didn't look great value. Don't forget, it's a 2003 design this. And I just thought, do I really want £70,000 in something that looks a little bit dated? I shelved that idea and moved on to other things, and that's when it started to get quite interesting. Now, in no particular order, here's what I considered. Firstly, I considered a Lexus LC500. Now, I love the design of those. I think they're a stunning car. They come with a 5-litre V8, and it'd be reliable. Again, that would be perfect. But something in the back of my mind just kept telling me that I'd look like I'd sold my controlling share in a carpet warehouse on the outskirts of Pontefract. Do you know what I mean? It's got a whiff of the old retired Golfer about it. Then I looked at the BMW 8 Series, again a stunning GT car, but I thought it might look like I owned an IT consultancy firm on the outskirts of Leatherhead. I looked at the S-Class Coupe, specifically the S63 Coupe. Now they're beautiful, I've always loved those, and they're great value. You can pick those up for about 45 grand. But there was just something about it was just a bit too big, cumbersome, clumsy. Now the old Matt would have loved that, but since I've done a Benjamin Button, it just wasn't buttering any parsnips. I looked at Porsche 911s, the 991 series. Now that would literally be the result of a flowchart of my criteria. It'd be perfect. But, as I've mentioned before, they just don't get me giddy. They're a little bit too clinical and sensible. The Maserati Gran Turismo was another option. They've got a glorious sounding V8 engine, but they're just a little bit too old now to live with every day. The infotainment system's ancient. It was designed back when Mussolini was in power. I considered the Jaguar F-Type R, but I know that harsh ride would just annoy me on a daily basis. I even considered the old XKR. I love those cars, but it's a little bit like a 60-year-old's gift to himself. The Audi R8 seemed a little bit too predictable, and the more I looked at them, they didn't really do much for me. It's not really my cup of tea, that. The BMW i8 was a no-no because I just know I wouldn't get on with it. That high sill and the silly doors would just wind me up. So I was getting really frustrated because there was literally nothing out there that was turning me on. And then all of a sudden, I remembered the AMG GT. You can pick these up now for around 65 grand, which I think is great value. It's half its cost new. For one like this, it's only done 21,000 miles, expect to spend about £70,000. But still, a lot of car for that money. When I got it home, I was going through the paperwork and I did a quick Google search on the previous owner's address. It turns out he's got a swimming pool and tennis courts, so that immediately made me feel better. Makes me think he's looked after it. It's exactly the kind of person you'd want to buy an expensive car from. My plan to sell my Range Rover has also changed because I just know that if I were to use this on a daily basis, I'd end up hating it. The ride's a little bit too firm, it's quite difficult to get in and out of, and it does attract quite a bit of attention. So I think for as long as I can possibly afford them both, I shall keep them both. Use my Range Rover every day, and then when I want to put a big smile on my face, I jump in this. That, unfortunately, guys, means there might be a few more sponsored ads on the channel, but please bear with me. I'm trying to juggle many things. Oh, that is intoxicating. If you follow me on Instagram, at HighPeakAutos, you'll have seen this car already because I just couldn't contain my excitement. I shared a picture of it within about an hour of me getting it. As soon as I saw it, I knew I just had to have it. I fell in love with the colour, to be honest. I think it's stunning. So many I looked at were black or grey and they just seemed boring in comparison. I think this is still classy. I've had this car for about 2 weeks now and I can honestly say it's everything I wanted and more. It's a car that immediately makes you feel younger, cooler and more successful, which I know sounds incredibly shallow, but they're nice feelings to have, aren't they? Let's be honest. Oh dear. I don't think I'll ever get bored of looking at it. It's one of the sexiest cars ever made. I love the long muscular bonnet. I love the curvy rear end. Most of all though, I love the noise it makes. I know this car was made to replace the SLS, a sort of modern day interpretation of the 1950s Gullwing SL. And you can see what they've done, but to my mind it looks like a modern interpretation of the E-Type or a Jensen Interceptor. I love it. The other good thing is you hardly see them on the road. They're quite a rare car. In fact, I can't remember the last time I saw one. I'd never driven one of these before, so I didn't know what to expect. I was expecting the ride to be terrible, which is not atrocious to be fair. It's just not as comfortable as a Range Rover. And I was expecting the 7-speed twin-clutch gearbox to be a right pain in the neck, but it isn't. It's actually a really good box. It changes gear in the blink of an eye, and it isn't too clumsy around town. I watched a few reviews on these online before I bought it, and a few of them complained about creaks and rattles, which for a few minutes I thought, can I live with something like that? And I thought, well, who cares? I'll either drown it out with a V8, or drown it out with the excellent Burmester audio system. Life's too short to worry about creaks and rattles from a 4-litre V8 sports car like this. Under the very long and imposing bonnet sits a 4-litre twin turbocharged V8, which produces 510 horsepower. The standard AMG GT produces about 450. This is the GTS, so it gets extra. There's also a GTR, which produces 575 horsepower, but I thought that would be a little bit too much, a little bit too hardcore. Plus, they're about 20 or 30 grand more expensive, so that was a no-no. Not once have I ever driven this and thought, you know what, I really wish this had an extra 65 horsepower. Not once. This will do 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds. It's the fastest thing I've ever driven. It'll top out at 198 miles an hour. It's incredible. The other good thing is, thanks to its clever traction control and limited slip diff, I've never actually lost control of it. A couple of times I thought I had, but it kind of rights itself, which is quite flattering. I know I've mentioned this already, but can we just talk about the noise for a second? I thought my SL55 sounded good. Well, it does. But this sounds like an SL55 that's spent its life drinking whiskey and smoking cigarettes. In Sport Plus mode, the exhaust valves open up and it gets even louder. That's just ridiculous. It's so theatrical, this car. Such an event. But you can pop it back into comfort mode and all of a sudden it becomes very civilised. I've got comfortable heated leather seats, blind spot monitoring, 2 cup holders even. Everything you could wish for. Unbelievably, there's a mode that's even more hardcore than Sport Plus. That's race mode. Beg your pardon? If you drive it in race mode down Deansgate late one night, the exhaust will pop and crackle. Apparently. When I bought it needed a few things doing to it. The 2 front tyres were very close to the legal limit, so I had those replaced. They cost £250 each, in case you were wondering. Needed a new set of wiper blades. Needed an MOT, which is now passed with no advisory items. I've had the rear windows tinted, which I think helps to make it look a bit more stealthy. So cheers Paul for that. I've got it booked in next week at SPR in Stockport, who are a Mercedes specialist. they're going to do an engine and gearbox service. The gearbox service is due at 4 years or 40,000 miles. This has only done 21, but it is 5 or 6 years old. So I thought I'd get that done anyway. Prevention is better than the cure, as they say. I also need to ask them to look at the tyre pressure monitoring system, because I'm sick of staring at that light. A minute after I reset it, the light comes back on. It's just irritating. TPS is one feature on modern cars that we really could do without. Also, there's a creaking coming from the rear suspension, so I think I'll get them to look at that at the same time. I think I've got a dry bush, said the actress to the bishop. Then I need to get the wheels refurbished because some of them are quite badly curbed. But I think I might leave that for a few months. I think I'll carry on getting to grips with it, see how I get on. It's awesome, this car. Can I just say at this point, thank you to everybody for watching and liking and subscribing, because there's no way I'd be sat in an AMG GT right now if it weren't for you guys. So I do appreciate it, thank you very much.
So that was my AMG GTS. Now sadly I sold that car. I sold it about 12 months ago. I owned it for 2 or 3 years and then sold it and made a smallish loss. I think I lost about 15 or maybe £18,000 on that car over 2 or 3 years. But in the grand scheme of things, to run a car like that, I didn't think it was too bad. You know, the sad thing is, I mean, I really don't regret buying that car, but I was just using it less and less, and it almost became a bit of a trophy car. It just spent most of the time sitting on my driveway, and I kind of preferred the way it looked to the way it went. It's not really a case of don't meet your heroes, because there was nothing wrong with that car, I loved it. But it's almost a case of, I wanted one, got one, and you know, I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt. It's that kind of thing. I just feel like that was the peak for me, really. I've never really been into supercars, so I certainly don't want to go down the supercar rabbit hole. That was about it for me. In all honesty, it probably wasn't very me. Something that is a bit more me, though, was this next car. This next car was a Mercedes CL500. As you can see, I'm quite a Mercedes fan. This one's known as the C216, and they're beautiful cars. If you don't know much about the CL, it's basically an S-Class coupe. It's a rival to the Bentley Continental GT. It's a beautiful luxury coupe, and here in the UK, they're great value. Now, this particular car I just bought for stock. I had no intention of keeping it myself. I just bought it to put on the forecourt with some profit across it. But from the moment I got in it, I just fell in love with it. And it's one of those cars that I regret selling. I should have kept it. You can pick up nice examples for around £10,000, so I will get one again in the future, when I can justify it, when I've got some space and some spare cash.
Alright guys, how's it going? Welcome back. I don't know about you, but I find the idea of having a hobby a bit strange. There are some people who like to whack a little white ball around a field 18 times and then go and stand in a clubhouse and chat with other Freemasons about birdies and bogies and eagles. Then there are those people who like to sit on foldable, collapsible chairs by the side of a canal in waterproofs in the rain, hoping to catch a fish, just so they can throw it back again. I've heard that some people even like to go jogging. It's all a bit weird, isn't it? I mean, I'm guilty of this too, only my hobby's even weirder. You see, I like to spend all of my spare time on Auto Trader, looking at cars that I could buy, but never do. I don't know if this is normal or not. One of the cars I find myself looking most at, but never actually buy, until today of course, is the Mercedes CL. For some reason the CL fascinates me. This is a car that started out live at over £100,000, and you can pick up good used examples for under 10. I just can't work out why they're so cheap, because on the face of it, it seems like the perfect car. A big, fast, powerful, luxurious continent crosser. They come with loads of gadgets as standard. The smallest engine you can buy is a big V8, and they're as luxurious as an oligarch's living room. So why are they so cheap? I know that all cars depreciate, and luxury cars are the worst offenders, but these CLs don't just depreciate, they plummet, like an elephant falling out of a plane. It just doesn't make sense to me. Let me give you a bit of background. Mercedes have been making this kind of car for decades. It's basically a two-door S-Class, bought by people who want to drive themselves rather than be chauffeured. It used to be called the SEC, then in 1992 Mercedes decided to change the name to the CL, which stands for Coupe Light, which is possibly the most ridiculous name ever because the last thing this car is light. It weighs nearly 2 tons. The first generation, known as the C140, ran from 92 until 99. That was then replaced with the second generation, which ran from 99 to 2006. That was known as the C215. This third generation, known as the C216, ran from 2006 until 2014. After that, Mercedes decided to lay to rest the CL name, presumably before somebody sued them under the Trade Description Act, and they call the newest models the S-Class Coupe. They also did a convertible version which is absolutely gorgeous. I recently bought this 2007 CL500 from a viewer, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's only done 24,000 miles, and it drives like a dream. Under the bonnet is a 5.5 litre V8, which produces 382 horsepower. Its top speed is limited to 155 miles an hour, and 0 to 60 takes just over 5 seconds. It feels properly quick, this. Although, of course, that's not what it's built for. But let me just demonstrate. Going on a bit of a straight now, so floor it. And then before you know it, yeah, that's a license losing speed, that. It's built more for comfort than speed, but it's nice to know it's there when you need it. Somewhat unbelievably, the CL500 is the base model, which is a bit like McDonald's smallest offering being the Big Mac. You can't buy the CL with a V6 or with a diesel, thankfully. There were other options available. You could have bought the CL600 with a V12, or the CL63 AMG, or if your father is an Emir or a Sultan, you could have bought the CL65 AMG with a twin turbocharged V12. Hardly anybody did though. Those models are as rare as rocking horse droppings. If I were you, I would go for either the 500 or the 600 and avoid those AMG models because in my opinion they're just a little bit too shouty, too brash. They're loud and aggressive and it just isn't what the CL's about. For a calming long distance cruiser, the 500 or 600 just suit the car best. Styling wise, I think it's lovely. It's as elegant now as it was 13 years ago when it left the factory. There's no B-pillar, so you end up with a very svelte, timeless shape. They do sit better with the AMG kit on, which was an optional extra when it was new. So you can go for a non-AMG car with the AMG looks. They just have so much presence. When you pull up in a CL, people take notice. From a distance, you'd think this was the same size as any other coupe, you know, a 6 Series or a CLK. It's only when you get close to it do you realise the enormity of it. It's massive. It's just over 5 metres long, this car, which, to put it into context, that's just over a foot longer than Volvo's cavernous V70. Speaking of cavernous, the boot on the CL is almost 500 litres, which is the same sort of size you'd get in an S-Class or an Audi A8. Although this is a two-door coupe, you do get 2 proper-sized rear seats. And unlike most two-door coupes, there's quite a bit of space back there. Most rear seats in most 2+2 coupes are only really comfortable if your passengers don't have legs. But the CL is an exception. You'll be able to carry 2 adults back there, even if they have a full-size head. Being inside a Mercedes CL is a bit like being in a first-class carriage. It's sumptuous. The leather is deep and rich and thick. It'll make you wonder why you didn't buy one years ago. Of course, the windows are double glazed and it's so incredibly well insulated that it's as quiet as an empty classroom. From the moment you get into a CL, you're just instantly relaxed. It's not so much a car, this, as a teleportation device. You're immediately transported to your own little world, where there's no stress, and you're wealthy, successful, healthy, and nothing's an issue. You drive along in your own little bubble of tranquility and opulence. Frequently the only thing you can hear in here is the clock ticking. Happily, when you're being held up by some sour-faced peasant in a Peugeot, you just need to gently tap the accelerator, and you're away. They become a distant memory. The CL is everything a Mercedes should be. I always say this to people, but you've never truly experienced a Mercedes, or a BMW for that matter, until you've driven a high-spec model with a big engine. The little A-Class with the engine from a Renault, cloth seats and a manual gearbox isn't a proper Mercedes. I'm pretty sure that wasn't Carl Benz's idea of the motor car. This was. In terms of technology, this car's from 2007, so there's no Bluetooth media streaming or Apple CarPlay, obviously. But there are a load of other features which will keep you occupied. For example, this one has something called Night View Assist, which is possibly the coolest feature ever fitted to a car. It has an infrared camera fitted to the front, which then sends that image to this display here. So when it goes dark, at the touch of a button, all the gauges disappear, and instead you get a night vision camera. It sounds like a gimmick. It is a gimmick, but it does work. I've used it on these country roads when I've been driving at night, and you can see animals that you wouldn't see through the windscreen. On top of that, you've got heated seats, which will also give you a massage. You've got radar cruise control, which will automatically slow the car down if the car in front of you is French. You get soft closed doors, so you won't alert anyone's attention when you get home a little late. You also get this phone keypad here under this leather pad. The whole car just feels like it was designed for James Bond. It's riddled with gadgets. You also get plenty of storage compartments, some in the door cards, the glove compartments are reasonable size, some more storage under there. You get 2 cup holders in case you were wondering. It all feels very upmarket, apart from a couple of things which I've got to point out. even though it is serious hair splitting. The first one is the glove compartment. Now when you open it, it drops down with such force and speed and severity that it'll take you by surprise. That's obviously not a deal breaker, but it is a little bit crude. You'd expect it to lower gracefully rather than just dropping crassly. The other issue are the steering wheel buttons, which, like all Mercedes from this era, are sticky. It just spoils the feel of an otherwise excellent quality car. The good thing is, rather than adjusting the volume from this sticky button, you can just use this scrolling wheel here. I do love the steering on this car. It's so light and effortless, and it turns on a sixpence. I also love the wooden steering wheel, but I'm sure there's a medical term for that. It just feels so much more luxurious than one made from dead cow. In terms of what it's like to drive, it's one of the most comfortable cars I've ever driven. It's about as stressful as taking a bath. As I mentioned earlier, it's also very fast in a straight line. But you might be wondering how it fares with corners. Well, it does wallow a little bit. It's not a 911 or a Lotus Elise. That said though, it's never scary. It never feels as though you're going to lose it. They do offer the CL with all-wheel drive, although this one isn't. This is just rear-wheel drive. Not that this will come as any surprise, but this isn't the kind of car that you'd ever take on a track. Instead, the CL's #1 job is to isolate the wealthy owner from the stresses of the real world. And it does that job remarkably well. Let's move on to running costs. Now this is one subject that always gets my back up because you get silly comments from people. Or when I say people, I mean people who drive Zara Picassos and such. They always say things like, well, if you can't afford a brand new Mercedes, then you certainly can't afford a 10-year-old one. That's just nonsense, it's drivel. Having said that, the running costs are higher than a Ford Focus or a Toyota Aygo, obviously. You can't drive around in a £100,000 Mercedes that you can now buy for 90% less and expect 70 miles per gallon, £30 a year annual road tax, and the reliability of a Japanese train timetable. That's just unreasonable. You can't have it always, but I would ignore those people in the sandals and the reactor glasses. Let them stick to their silly Citroens. All they're trying to do is spoil your fun. Anyway, let's talk figures. The road tax here in the UK is in the highest bracket of £600 a year, but happily it's ULEZ compliant, which means you can drive this into Birmingham or London, and you won't be charged. Fuel-wise, while you're pottering around town, you'll do 15 or 16 miles per gallon, and on a motorway run you'll do 28 or 29, which isn't great. It's not like a Prius or a diesel Lupo, but I do think it's a price worth paying. Reliability-wise, it's a big complicated car this, so it will throw up the odd large bill. That, unfortunately, is to be expected. Servicing your CL shouldn't cost the earth. This one, for example, is booked in with SPR in Stockport, who are a Mercedes specialist. Now, it's due a B service. Now, they've quoted around £300 for that. I'm also going to have the gearbox serviced, because it's 13 years old, and I suspect it's on its original fluid. Now, that's going to cost around £200. So I don't think those costs are prohibitive. My advice, as always, with any kind of luxury car like this, is set aside a couple of grand, stick it to one side in a separate bank account, and just treat it as a bit of a rainy day fund. That way, when something breaks, and it probably will because it's a complicated car, you'll have some money tucked aside there, so you won't be caught short. What I would suggest is find yourself a good Mercedes specialist and just stick with them. Let them look after the car. Run it on premium fuel, treat it with a bit of respect, don't drive it like you're 11. Try and keep it garaged, or at least undercover, so it's not out in all elements. When something breaks, fix it, even if it's minor or trivial, so that you don't get a long list of faults. If you're not planning to use it every day, then I'd recommend that you buy a trickle charger, something like a C-Tech charger. That way it'll keep the battery in tip-top condition. And yeah, you should be alright. Another thing, don't buy the cheapest. I know if you have a look on Auto Trader, you'll find some of these at probably $7,995, $8,995, but you might just be buying a basket case. So it's probably best to avoid those. I'd only recommend that you buy one with proper service history as well, either Mercedes or Mercedes specialist. And this next tip, I know this might sound a little bit obvious, but try and buy one that's been loved. That way you should be able to have a relatively trouble-free experience, and you can drive around with that smug grin on your face, knowing that you're in the best Mercedes money could buy, for the same price as your neighbour's Santa Fe. In all honesty though, I don't know who would have bought one of these cars brand new. Who would have spent £100,000 and not had a Bentley or Aston Martin badge? It just makes no sense. So as a new buy, no, I would steer clear. But as a used buy, they don't come any better than the Mercedes CL. In the words of James Garner, at least once in your lifetime, you owe yourself a car like this.
So that was the Mercedes CL, a car that's as beautiful as it is luxurious. And the fact that you can pick those up for around £10,000, it's just mind-blowing. There were some cars on that list that I dreamed about owning for years, and others were a complete surprise. But that's the good thing about cars, isn't it? You just don't know which ones you're going to form a bond with. I'm going to stop there before I quote Forrest Gump. Well, I think that's about it. But do let me know in the comments below, what was your favourite car? Tell me the story, because I'm intrigued. But yeah, thanks for watching. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't done already. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and TikTok. I'll leave the links below. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Cheers, guys.